Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Anime, the show that's all about eating, sleeping, and anime.
At least two of those things.
Yeah, we don't sleep. We only
No.
watch anime. Guys, my name is Zach Dykes, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Derek Daniel. Derek, how's it going, my man?
Going pretty good, man. Finally excited to get into this first impression of a new anime for the spring lineup.
Today we're talking about My Hero Academia Vigilantes just came out. We are going to be talking about the first 4 episodes. Kind of, we had to have a little bit more than just a taste test.
Yeah.
You go to the ice
Yeah.
cream shop and they give you the little spoon, and just like, no, we needed a knuckle duster bowl of ice cream.
Exactly.
So, Derek, what is standing out to you before we kind of jump into like every episode, or what stands out to you about the show so far in the
I
first
think
4 episodes?
just the different feel of it, like that the animation's a little different. Like
Hmm.
it's I don't want to say it's off-putting, but it just feels different compared to like seeing 7 seasons worth of the animation in the original My Hero, but it's still done real like in certain
Hmm.
frames it's done really well. Um but also I just like the different take on it, like the different cast of characters, like the main character, the mentor, so to speak, and then like the girl, like the best girl, but also she just kind of like inserts her, like you don't get much of an introduction to her. She just kind
Hmm.
of gets inserted into this, and it's like, oh, I'm a part of this group now, and I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know much about you. I mean, we're starting to get piecemeal like in the
Yeah.
later episodes, but just like the trio of cast members, and then of course, it being set in the My Hero universe, because we're not going to really get spoilery to an extent, but we will
Yeah.
mention things like it is a prequel to My Hero Academia, but seeing references to other characters like that we've been mentioned or we've seen that we've been through 7 seasons with, it's nice to see that they still exist, that hey, we're not completely just forgetting them, erasing them from memory, like we're just not ignoring them. We're going to bring them, make them sure that they are known, and it's like, hey, it's a shared universe, so to speak.
Yeah. I love, like, back to the art style. I think the introduction of like a comic book kind of art style where like they'll have
True.
different things pop up, kind of like, Batman 66, that sort of deal. And it kind of fits because Knuckle Duster is kind of like Batman, like the
True.
very budget, Dollar General version of Batman, but I love him. Like
He's
he's
like All
hilarious.
Might's drunk uncle.
Yeah, yeah, and getting to see All Might the very beginning of the show, and he is like at the full height of what All Might is at that
Correct.
point, and even seeing some of the heroes that we see later on, because this is several. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's 20 years, but
and
it's.
I like the introduction by Izuku Midoriya's voice
Mhm.
actor, and it's like before Midoriya even attended UA, this is the story about how this took place. I'm like, wow, this is a whole different, like, this is cool. This is like, because you would think, oh, Vigilantes, it's a side story. You would think it'd be like going on the same time My Hero events is going on. No, no, this is like way before it. It makes sense to do it this way.
And I think that is smart because you actually, like, if it was during, like, especially like with season 7 and all of that going
Oh
on,
yeah.
I feel like the stakes are so high that these cast of characters wouldn't be able to handle what's going on in the My Hero Academia world at that point.
Correct. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I like how now of course over the next couple episodes you see the villain, so to speak, and we'll get
Mhm.
more into them later on. But the villain, and now like, okay, there's a whole reason Knuckle Duster is out here doing what he's doing. He's not just some random person just out here just moonlighting as a hero. You know what I mean? He's actually got a purpose to this. So, and now that we're seeing the pieces form together, it's really cool to see. So like you said, it's getting, I feel like episode 4 kind of took a step back because I feel like it wasn't like as an impactful episode. Like we did get a tease, or like we did get a revelation in the episode, but it wasn't like, it just felt like this was like a typical villain of the week episode for episode 4, but it was still fun. And like the whole show is just like has been enjoyable so far. Like, and this is very telltale. Like, I think this is following a similar formula to My Hero season one, because not only is it the same length, it's 13 episodes, or it's going to be 13 episodes, but it's giving that same feel because when you look at like the story arcs, you see Vigilantes beginning saga, and then like what do you see from like UA beginning saga? So like I feel like like because of that, they're having that similar start, even though Koichi, the main character, is more like thrust into this rather than just being like, oh, I want to be a hero too. I mean, there is that, but
Yeah.
it's like he kind of gets just like, hey, it's like, hey, you should be a vigilante with me. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, it's more of out of necessary, like necessity at
Yeah,
one point, but it is like, okay, am I going to just live my life, working at a convenience store? There has to be more to this.
right,
And I do like the juxtaposition of, being a hero, you do get paid. You get to, that is your job and all of this. But being a vigilante, it's like I have to go to school, I have to go to work, I have to take care of my home, and then I get to go be a vigilante. I get to go do the thing that I'm wanting to do. But
right.
it's like after all of this, and he's like dead tired and everything. It's just a different feel than what we've seen in, My Hero and all of that. I think that is one of the big things to take away. And it's a smaller cast of characters compared
Yes,
to like class 1A and everything. And I feel like you get to spend more time, learn a little. Like we were still pretty early, but I feel like I've got a
right,
good hold on who our characters are, Pop
for
Step
sure.
and Knuckle
Knuckle
Duster
Duster,
and,
yeah,
the crawler or whatever,
yeah.
the
The crawl, what
crueler.
it? Yeah, the crawler, the crueler.
Yeah.
No, it's the crawler.
And
So,
I like that there is comedy in it, but the stakes we're starting to see is like based around a drug that,
mhm.
gives up pop-up villains where, it amplifies a quirk and everything. And some of it, like one of Popstet's, fans gets a hold of it and everything, and it kind of is
Yeah.
a funny situation, but
Also,
there
it's
are.
like it's just an underlying issue of people not being sad. It's just like with athletes and like taking steroids because they don't have they weren't gifted with the athleticism as like some of these stars that it just comes natural to. So it's like, hey, I want to have power too, or I want to be a hero, or I want to be able to do this. So let me get a leg up on the issue.
Yeah, I want the quick route to the success. I want the quick route to this and everything. And I think that is, indicative. It's like you look at the people that are, the vigilantes, and they don't have amazing quirks. Like
Mm-mm.
literally, you know, Crueler, what is his name?
Koichi.
Koichi is like literally just slide and glide. It's just this kind of like
Yeah.
moseying about, like you could it's as fast as a
Right,
bicycle.
right.
And
Nothing
a
crazy.
bicycle's that's just kind of like just going. It's not
Yeah.
like,
Just
a speed bike or anything like that. And then you have
pop.
Pop Step that's literally just bouncing around.
Yeah.
And then, I
we,
don't
we
want to give
find you
anything
about to say, and
away.
we find out about Knuckle Duster, and it's like, okay, this is way different than what the typical uh mentor type character is. And it's just like, you talk about the comedic value, like the introduction to where Knuckle Duster comes in, he's like, essentially like he doesn't say it, but he has the I am here moment, and then he just like botches a fall onto trash bags, and it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, this is definitely a guy who has a day job but then moonlights as a vigilante. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
and he seems like he's not taking it seriously, which there's still instances where he's not, but when it comes down to hunting the people who are taking down Trigger and trying to find the source and stop it, like he takes that seriously. Now that part he takes it probably a little too seriously, because like I alluded to, he punches first and asks questions later. And
hmm
even like Koichi and Pop Step call him out on that. It's like, why don't you do investigation first before you hit him? You know, but and there's reasons for that, and I would like to know. Like let's just get into like the over, like we're not going to break it down episode by episode, but let's just
yeah.
talk over like the overarching ish, like story theme here. I'd like to know more about why, because of Hit Knuckle Duster's situation that we find out in episode two. Um, I'd like to know the circumstances revolving around why he is so involved,
Mm.
because Trigger, because of Trigger, like did something happen with his family? Did something happen with like a colleague of his, like, like love interest? Like something has to be motivating him other than just
Yeah.
getting another drug off the street, because he wouldn't go to this length. Because yes, in the regular world of My Hero, like the hero's like, oh, you hear about a drug on the street, need to take it off, but
Yeah.
you don't go adamant about it unless you're like doing an overhaul situation and you're doing a sting operation. Um, but in this one, like Knuckle Duster's like adamant, like he's got to find the source, take it out. So it's just like,
This is crusade.
yeah, it is. And it's like, what happened? Like, what? Obviously, your motivation is cool, getting it out, stopping this, cool. But why? What drove you to go to these lengths to just like knock out everybody who is taking the drug? And
Yank their tongue out of their mouth.
right, and but like, and you see it at the end of episode one, where he acts like kind of a meathead, but he has good instincts. Like that
Hmm.
businessman, he's just like, you show me your tongue, like all this, and you're just thinking, all right, he's starting to go off the rails. Like he's getting a little too involved with this investigation. But then you find out that he was right, and it's just like,
Hmm.
okay, he has extremely good instincts. So, but even though he acts like an idiot sometimes, so what is driving him? Like what happened to him to make him want to do this? Because you don't go the vigilante route unless you're just like, I need to do this my way, bump what the heroes are doing, bump what the police are doing. Like, yes, they can't be everywhere, I'm trying to help them out essentially, but also it's like, you don't go to those lengths without something big happening in your life to do that. um
Yeah.
and again, when we see that the villain introduced, like their quirk makes all sorts of sense as to how Trigger is done. And but then like my first question was, all right, are they like a Shigaraki type where they're just like, obviously like they're young, just like Shigaraki is, and but they're not influenced that we know of. Like there's a thing in episode 4 that we get a revelation of, but
Yeah.
um, that it alludes to it. And as soon as I heard the voice, I'm like, is this that person? And it is.
I like as soon as I heard it, I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah,
This is
exactly.
getting
I'm like, oh, okay, now
interesting.
that makes sense. So, but then it confirms that they are the Shigaraki, which is like, oh, we're like the mouthpiece, or like we're like the poster child for this whatever is going on, this illegal activity. But also like the fact that Knuckle Duster and the villain have a relationship, because every time their quirk is activated, Knuckle Duster puts it out and it causes backlash to the user. And it's like, okay, Knuckle Duster doesn't know who the villain is, but they've seen their quirk enough to know to recognize it and to take it out.
Well,
So,
the trigger is a drug. It's not like from their quirk. Like
oh,
their their quirk was carrying it,
oh,
and when
okay,
Knuckle Duster destroyed what was part of their quirk, they were able to sense that. But like the
gotcha, okay,
actual trigger and everything is like being manufactured somewhere. We haven't found out where yet,
right.
but
You
that
after
person's
you
the
hear the phone,
distributor.
I'm about to say, after you hear the phone conversation, you can kind of make inferences about
Yeah.
what, yeah. So, but
Yeah.
still, they're the Shigaraki. But I wonder, because Shigaraki was, for lack of a better phrase, groomed to be a villain.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel like this is a
Villain by
convenient.
choice, because you
Yeah,
see
this is
because in their introduction in episode 3, like the way they speak, the way it's like, oh, I'm moonlighting as a villain, like this is
yeah.
my hobby, like I get enjoyment out of this, I like to do this, but at the same time it's not my all encompassing being.
Yeah, this is not like any of the group that we're used to in like My Hero Academia. This is just somebody that likes to mess with people and
Exactly.
cause pain, but not on the scale of Shigaraki or um
All for one.
Toga or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Like she's just kind of like, oh, this is fun to mess with people because she's kind of that like mean popular girl.
Oh
That's what it
yeah.
feels like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but I like what they're doing here with, we don't want to give anything away if you haven't watched it, but setting up that this is a bigger play to
Yes.
learn things, to prep things, and that this person is, active in the story is very cool.
Exactly. And I know the next arc that they're about to enter in, or it's not the next arc, but the arc after that, which I think they'll end the season on, whether they'll either finish that arc or they'll leave it on a cliffhanger, will be a confrontation with said person, or at least like the first major confrontation. So,
Mm,
but it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of moving parts, and of course, we see like we see Aizawa in this. Like we
yep.
see um, Ida's brother. Like even
Yep.
Ida does make a thing, but seeing I know it's like
that, that part was
it
hilarious.
was. I'm like, but it is so on brand for Ida.
Oh yeah.
Um, but his seeing his older brother as Ingenium, because we only saw him in the hospital in season 2 after Stain had took him out.
Hmm.
And we didn't even see, what was he like as the first Ingenium, so to
Yep.
speak, or at least the that iteration of Ingenium. And then we see it as like, yeah, he's the cool guy. He's kind of quirky like Tenya, but he's also not like super. He's more like the cool, quirky guy rather than just like the dirty, quirky guy. But seeing him exactly the robot essentially.
Yep.
Um, but it was nice to see like just get that little snapshot of what his brother was like as a hero.
Hmm.
Um, and I know there's other characters. There's a character that um we haven't seen since season 6 of My Hero make a return in this one, um for reasons that we'll see, but I because it was on the poster. And then the next episode like is called Judgment, and I
Mm,
wonder if we'll get a cameo from a certain villain in this that just because of what it built from season 2, just because
yeah.
of what it now of course it may be just a throw off. It may have to do with like the next villain of the arc that we're about to
Hmm.
enter into. But just the title just kind of gives some stuff like inferences about, well, what else? What will we see? Just heroes make appearances, or will we see villains? We already saw one villain make a cameo appearance essentially, so I want to know if other villains will make cameo appearances. um
Yeah. Yeah,
but
because the villains in that era would have been different. Majority of them would have been different in this show's era.
right. So, and just like because Aizawa, he's not technically a teacher in this one, he's still like
Yep.
a racerhead
Hmm.
in this one. So it's like interesting to see, and it's interesting to see their lives of some of these characters before they came to UA.
Yep.
But I, I'm also and seeing like the episode 3, I think was like more like introducing more of the characters, because Knuckle Duster and Pop Step have inadvertently moved in with Koichi in his loft, and it's
Yeah.
like and they've already marked their territories. Like, you can't come across the curtain, and then Koichi's just like, when did all this happen? Can I just have my loft? And I'm just like, poor
Yeah.
man. This is welcome to the life.
I
Um,
love when Knuckle Duster's like, "Where's all the beer?" He's like, "You drank it all." He's like, "Well, go get some more." It's
right? And
like,
it's like, I just, yeah, sure. With what money? How about you go
yeah.
get it? Um,
Uh,
but and then learning about Pop Step, like her, like why she became the way she is, and like episode 1, the introduction to that, like there was that scene in there where it was just like it kind of got a little cringy, and I'm just like, oh, okay, let's not go, hopefully they don't go
yeah.
that route, so because
Like
there's
that scene, I was like, "Okay, this is making it feel way more gritty
right,
and everything." And I was just like, "Okay." I was like, "Where are we going? What's going on here?" And then, things thankfully didn't happen, but it made it feel like you felt powerless in that situation because
right,
it's just Koichi and Pop Step, and her quirk is just bouncing around, and then
yeah,
his quirk is literally just like
sliding,
yeah,
yeah,
sliding around. And
he's
it
essentially a
was
hoverboard.
yeah, and it was just like, oh my god, like a hero's not going to show up to fix this. Like
Nope.
that's the reality of so many people within this world is a hero doesn't always show up.
Right.
And that's the whole point is like sometimes you got to take it into your own hands,
Correct.
you know.
So, and
And
go ahead, finish your
I,
thought.
I was just going to say, like, I think one of the things we're going to see, and maybe this even goes into the judgment thing, is like it's illegal to be a vigilante
Yep.
And the one of the things we see earlier on is the cops talking about it, and it's two cops that we know from the
My hero.
series
Yep.
actually. And it's like, yeah, we're not going to think that they're doing a, a service to us. Like, this is criminal activity still.
Correct. Yeah. Like, don't mistake it. It's still illegal. Like, they're not like you said, they're not helping us. They're only pretty much getting in our way. Um, and also, where was I going with this? But and with judgment, but also I think, where was I going with this? Anyway, oh, I know where I was going with this. And like, I don't know how long the trigger drug is going to be a thing. I don't know if it'll
Hmm.
just be for the main focus for this season, or it'll be a long-standing issue. I doubt it. I think it'll just probably be through this season and be done with it. But I'm going to just throw this out here. Wild prediction. I'm taking it out of your book, because Koichi's quirk, none of this main character's quirks are stupendous, or like, even as like combinate, maybe down the road if they do some like combo moves, it'll be more impressive. But because their quirks are not impressive, and Koichi wants to help people,
Yep.
I feel like there will be an incident where either someone gets severely hurt or murked, and Koichi wasn't fast enough to save them. It'll be one of two things: either he'll be tempted to use trigger to help them because he doesn't want that to happen again because it'll be so traumatic for him, or two, he'll get captured by said villain and basically says, "Huh, you don't have an impressive quirk. Wonder what it'll be like if you take trigger with it." Like, basically forcibly inject him with trigger.
Hmm.
I wonder if, or even it could be pop step. I wonder if either one of them will succumb to the trigger drug.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a willing thing.
Yeah,
I think it will be like under duress or turmoil.
yeah.
But thinking of My Hero Academia season 7,
Hmm.
Spinner comes to mind,
Yeah,
and what happens to him,
yeah,
he gets all jacked out of shape.
yep. And he loses his all self being.
That was Trigger, bro.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
same
and
side effects, everything.
yeah, that's wild.
Yep, yep.
And now we get an explanation.
Yep. And that's where we're going to leave this, guys. Let us know what your thoughts are of My Hero Academia Vigilantes down in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. And make sure to check out our other content from Eat Sleep Anime. We love chatting and diving deep into the shows that we love. This has been Zach.
And Derek,
Y'all have a blessed week. Bye bye.